Welcome back, everybody. It's Friday afternoon, and it's time for another episode of Jiles McCoy Live, your spot for tech, hi-fi, and gaming. Today, we have got what I consider to be a really awesome episode for you. Joining us from Kaleidescape is Andre Floyd, and we're going to talk about a product that I love a lot. And hopefully, if you're not familiar with it after this episode, you'll have a little more insight into why I love it so much. But first, Andre, welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
I'm super excited. Maybe to kick things off, we can talk a little bit about you so people can kind of get a good feeling about this Andre guide. So maybe you can tell people who you are and why they should care.
All right. Um, I am the director of tech support at Kaleidescape. I also have a lot of other odds and end things that I do, like presentations like this and managing trade shows and so forth. But so I've been at Kaleidescape for 4 years. And prior to that, I was at Sony for 28 years. The
Holy
last
smokes.
The last 6 of those, I was responsible for the home theater projector business. And so that's where I became really attuned to the custom install business. Prior to that, I was on the business and professional side. Starting in 2005, I introduced the first 4K projectors for commercial cinemas and started the revolution of digital cinema from moving away from film. And
Wow.
prior to that, I worked on just about every other production type product that you could. Uh, Worked on the cameras that George Lucas used to film Episode 2 because he wanted to start shooting things digitally, so that would start the progression of the digital process and get all the way out to the projection and be able to do all of his effects and everything without having to start with film and doing that transfer.
Wow.
So
I think we could probably do about 20 episodes just on what you said there.
yeah.
But today we're talking Kaleidescape. And maybe in your words, for the person who comes and says, what the heck is a kaleidoscope? That's the first thing I always hear. What is this kaleidoscope? I'm like, no. Kaleidescape. So big picture, what is Kaleidescape?
Kaleidescape is a movie platform. So it is a large library of movies and TV shows and concerts that you can watch in your home at extremely high quality. And to do that, you need a set of hardware that can support that, which has both the video quality, audio quality, and security. So that's one of the key things about Kaleidescape. One of the reasons that Kaleidescape is the only system that the studios actually allow us to take their movies, convert them into home viewable bits, and deliver those bits into people's homes so that you have the movie there all the time to watch anytime you want in full video and audio resolution.
Yeah, and that's one of the there's always a certain set of questions, and I'm sure you've encountered these as well. And I think it'd be kind of cool to talk through some of those now, because these are the ones that people always ask. So first they ask, what is it? And then, after the explanation that you you just gave is given, the next thing they always ask is, so it's a streaming platform.
And
And,
no,
and no.
no, it's not. So it, streaming is, what other uh, content providers are able to do because they keep all the bits to themselves and just deliver you a real-time stream, and is going to be, lesser quality because it's got to fit through the magical internet pipe, and
In real
but also
time,
in
right?
real time.
Yeah, in real time. Yeah,
Yeah, to millions of TVs at the same time, right?
exactly.
So, even if it's not the same program, but the providers have to send out a lot of bits, and so they got to make that work in their own infrastructures. And but for us, the size of the pipe coming into your house is almost irrelevant. The only thing that it affects is how fast you can download movies. So if you've got a gigabit Ethernet pipe, which is not uncommon anymore,
Mhm.
then you're going to download a 4K 2 hour movie in about 10 minutes. And if you've got a cabin in the woods and you've got, 15 megabits per second, it's going to you'll still be able to get the movies. It's going to take you a little while to get it there, but
It'll
when you go to watch
eventually
it,
get there.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be in full quality. Whereas if you were relying on streaming over that same pipe, you're going to get a very compromised signal, right?
Yeah. So, when you stream, and you have connectivity issues, I always see one of two or both things happen, right? The system, they're smart enough now to kind of scale the video quality. So, if things are humming along, it might look okay. But then if things get slow, it goes down. It's like you're watching, old broadcast television from the 70s or something, right? And then you have the hard buffering, right?
Right.
And, this system, just for additional clarity, it has all the information already downloaded before you ever watch the movie. So those things could never happen, right? When someone's replaying this video.
Basically, no. That the only constraining thing is your local network, and so we want to have a gigabit Ethernet network in your home, which is typical these
Mhm.
days. That if somebody in the house decides to start downloading some huge video gamers in the middle of you know we've got 3 kids on school conferences or something, then if you're not paying attention, that could affect the bandwidth in your home. But aside from something extraordinary happening in there, that nothing is going to affect the transfer of the bits from the server out to the player where they get converted into video and show up on your screen.
Right on. And so what you just said is going to lead us to another topic here in just a minute, meaning server and player and the new architecture that you have in place. It's been around for a little while now, but I rather like it. But going back to the standard flow of questions that come along. So after this part of the description is put out there, there's always somebody that says, "Oh, so this is just like buying discs and ripping them on my Plex player, right? Or what XYZ device." Um, so I have my answers for that because to me it's similar, but it's such a different beast. How do you address that question?
So it gets you to a similar place having a Plex system versus having a Kaleidescape system. The difference is the pain and agony of getting to that same place.
Oh, it's so much pain and agony.
Eh, That's basically what it comes down to. So there's with the Plex system or any other media server system where you're ripping media, first off, ripping is illegal, and copying and saving
Yep.
streaming channels is illegal. So if you're willing to avoid that, ignore that and just go ahead and still do it anyway, then it's the time of doing that transfer from whatever media it is that you're taking it from. But then you have to do all the other bits of going and finding the metadata. What is the title and the description and the actors and all the other stuff that you want to have in that system to help you find the movies and search them and have some background about them. And then and then you're maintaining a network in your home and a server and all of the bits to make sure that this stuff that's now on a an off-the-shelf server and off-the-shelf discs can get into video that shows up on your TV or your projector. And so what I've seen is that there are people who love to have these systems and love to spend a lot of time doing that, making sure that they've got every possible movie they can get, going to Walmart and going to the discount bin and grabbing those discs and loading them up to get the biggest number of movies in there and spending the time doing that. And what I found is they tend to not spend a lot of time actually watching movies. And so the flip side is Kaleidescape is for people who want to watch movies and don't want to get involved in all of the science of making the movies get to their house. So you have a purchase a system, install it, have somebody install it for you, and then you go onto the store either using the Kaleidescape remote or on screen or through your PC. You pick a movie, you buy it, it downloads, and then you go to the screen and watch it. And it's very simple.
So, I'll make some comments here too because
Mhm.
I've gone through all these iterations, right? As I've tried to figure out what's the right way for me to watch movies. And this, if you go back, maybe I started out with VHS, right? And there was Laserdisc and all that stuff. And then DVDs came out, and when the concept of a media server with the front end came out, that was pretty revolutionary, right? Being able to do that. And I've stepped through all those things. I've discs, and then you spend all this time to get the right kind of device to put in your computer that can then rip the disk, and then how do you convert it, and then what's the quality level, and then how do you store it, and then you have to have all your pieces and bits in that, and then you have to have your player, and then it's got to be networked so it can talk to the storage, and then you have to put it into your AV, and it becomes the stuff of like the super duper enthusiast, if that makes sense, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
got to really be in it to jump through all those hoops, because it's a lot of management headache, and a lot of time spent figuring this stuff out. And for a certain set of people, I think that's great and they can do it. But, I found that after doing that for a little while, it was just the worst thing ever, because I always end up with all these shows in these folders, and nothing got named right. And then I couldn't find the right things. And then I didn't have the cover art that was associated with the right thing. And then I didn't have any descriptions, and I didn't know what episode 3 of the show was about, and it was horrible. And then I finally made my way around to Kaleidescape, and it answered those questions of, I don't want to do all this stuff, right? I want to have a really good experience, and I want to have it at great quality. And streaming gets you part of the way there. It doesn't give you the quality, though. It makes things easy. But the only solution that I've ever found that addresses all of those different pain points that I have is Kaleidescape. So for me, it became very quickly a no-brainer. This is what I have to have to be able to watch movies and enjoy them with my family in the way that we want to be able to do it, right? So I'm really happy that you exist. Very,
Well, and
very happy.
that's why we're here, and that's why the people who founded the company were exactly in that same position. Initially, that going back to late '90s, early 2000s, the DVD era. So now you were able to get digital versions of movies instead of VHS, and so that had added some convenience and some picture quality benefits. But then, as you started to amass a collection of movies, you had this closet full of stuff, and you had to go to the closet, find the disc, and put it in. And so our founders decided, what could we do better than that? They were networking experts already and server experts, so they came up with the original Kaleidescape system. The company started in 2001, and the first product came out in 2003, which was a server-based system, and that's where we came from. And so since then, it's just been incremental improvements, moving up through adding a store so that you could purchase and download movies, moving to 4K and being able to add that. And we keep iterating to make the product better and easier and more fun for all our customers.
That's great. Now, the number one question, I think, of all questions that I'm asked about Kaleidescape really comes down to the concept of what is the quality of a Kaleidescape movie in particular compared to 4K disc. I think there's general consensus out there by everyone that Kaleidescape kicks the snot out of anything streamed, right?
Sure.
Um, but the question is, when you compare it to the 4K disc experience, what is the delta there, and how would anybody know, what that delta is? How can you determine that? So, can we talk about that a little bit? How, what is that difference, and how do people understand it?
Absolutely. So, there's a couple of very basic things. So that a 4K Blu-ray disc is delivering data off of that disc on an average of 50 megabits per second. And Kaleidescape, we are delivering data off of our servers to the players on an average of about 65 megabits per second. So at, just simply, that's going to indicate that we're providing more data. And that's, just like everything having to do with compression, that's an average. If something is a placid scene of a sky in a field, then that's going to take very few bits. And so that's going to be relatively
Be
low data
lower,
rate.
obviously.
But
Yeah.
then you've got some crazy action scene with all kinds of stuff going on, bullets and explosions. That takes a lot more data. So that depending on how much data you can deliver and how much you can store, that's going to affect the quality. So if you want to go a layer behind that, what happens with a disk, disks are physical media, truly physical.
Yep.
They can fit a finite number of bits on them. And when a studio is delivering, creating a disk to be delivered to people's homes, it is going to include the video of the movie, obviously, the audio tracks, which are some number of audio tracks for different languages and director's commentary. There's going to be some subtitles, don't take up a lot of room. There's also the menus that go into it, which have some amount of video to them. Then there's the previews, because the studios need to sell other movies. And so you've got
Right.
to take up some space with previews. And there may be some other special features on there. So they figure out all of the things that are going to go onto the package that's going to get delivered. And they know what the size of each of those components is. And they subtract that from whatever the total size of the disc is, and then make the 2-hour movie fit into whatever's left. And
Sure.
so that immediately determines what the average bit rate is going to be on the disc. For Kaleidescape, we get the same package of content called a mezzanine file that has all of the video, the audio, and the subtitles and everything in it that the disc people get. But we can then process that to fit onto a Kaleidescape system. And because there's still constraints that we need to make it work at a video bit rate that is a home bit rate similar to the Blu-ray format. But when we're compressing it, we're not concerned at all with what the total physical size of the disc is. So we can go through frame by frame and make sure every frame is visually lossless. So you can compress stuff and throw things away, but you're not going to notice it in a moving video. And that's what video compression is all about. And so we can make the video visually lossless from front to back. We have really qualified, talented people who look at that video over and over and make sure that it's perfect from front to back. And if that file size comes out to be, whatever it needs to be, that's what we're going to deliver. So it may take a couple extra seconds to download the file, but it's going to give you a visually lossless representation every time that you watch it at home. So some
That's
examples when
outstanding.
you look at the really big movies. So Lawrence of Arabia, 3 hours and 47 minutes. That movie, when you download it from Kaleidescape, is 115 gigabytes. And there's no disc that you can buy that can hold 115 gigabytes. Similarly, Godfather Part 2, which is a 3 hour, 22-minute movie, is 118.3 gigabytes of data. And Avengers Endgame, 3 hour movie, 103 gigabytes. So we're able to apply more bits, provide more bits to make sure that the movie's going to be as good a quality as it possibly can.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And just to kind of go back and hit some of the high points. So just like when you have a production company that's going to press a disc, right? They get the source files and they go through the mastering process of figuring out how to package this stuff up. Your team at Kaleidescape goes through a very similar process, but you don't have these ceilings from a media point of view. Obviously it's just what a player can accept, and what you can send through your AVR and your processor and that kind of stuff. That there's a limitation there, obviously, but you have freedom to create the best possible version of a home view experience that can be had. And there is no competition for that. I mean, 4K disc goes as high as it can, and it can be as good as the size limitation, but there's no one that can do today what you do from a quality point of view for home video.
Exactly.
It doesn't exist. And folks that are ripping this stuff off disc and putting on a player, they're still limited by the quality that comes on the 4K disc as well, right?
Correct. They're not getting any extra bits off
Right.
of that disc. They're getting exactly what there is. And
Okay.
so, the way we like to describe it is that you're going to get at least as good a quality as there is on a 4K disc, But in cases where the discs had to compromise for size and space limitations, that you're probably going to get a slightly better quality representation from Kaleidescape.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So the next question, and hopefully I'm flowing these kind of in some type of logical method. We touched on architecture before, right? So people, they'll buy Kaleidescape and it comes as boxes that they put in their house, right? And in the past, you get like one box, but now you get two boxes or more, depending on how many players you need. What does that architecture look like, and what is the idea of having them in the different pieces?
Well, going back to the early systems were also, there was always a server and some number of players. There was even other devices to make things even more complicated in the Premiere world. But so in the Strato world, it's down to two things. You need a storage device known as a Terra server, which comes in a full-size version that's a 2-rack unit device with 4 hard drive slots in it. Or there's the compact Terra, which is the single rack, half wide unit that's got a single hard drive in it. And then there's a player, which there is just the Strato C player at this point. And so that's the basic architecture. What we had done in both our earlier iterations and the current, the 4K iteration, is tried to make a simpler version of the product. Like you said, the all-in-one version. So in the Premiere world, there was a Cinema One, and then that migrated into an Alto player, and then moved on to the Strato and Strato S player, which was a player with storage. But by doing that, the issue was it was compromising things. So you're using, because it was a compact device, and so you're using a smaller processor to do both all of the storage management, the downloading and disk management, as well as the decoding and playback management, and managing the menus, which that people may not realize that when you look at that menu, the box cover menu, where it shows dozens of box covers there, that depending on how many movies you have, it is managing the information about all of those movies, not just the ones that you can see on the screen at the time, and all of those files. All those files for the pictures are pretty high-res files. They exist on your system as well. And so the demo that I've seen you do, where you show the shuffle, and so you move to an Avengers movie, and then it goes and finds all the rest of the Marvel and other action movies on your system, that the player has to know what all the movies are on your system
Mm-hmm.
and know which ones to move. And so that's, is a fair amount of processing. And so to have one processor doing all of that just compromises things. So that meant that you couldn't do downloading while you were playing back another movie, and the download speed was relatively slow anyway, comparatively, because the processor has to manage that as well as the rest
Mm-hmm.
of the box. So by separating those out into dedicated pieces, the server does all the server stuff the way the server should, and so that got the download speed comparatively about 4 times faster than it was, and that's how we can get down to this kind of 10-minute download speed, and allows you to choose a movie, download that, start watching that, and then the next movie that you've chosen can start downloading while you're watching that one, so you'll have something to watch when that's over with. And then you can also have, on the compact Terra, now you can have more players, because on the Strato and Strato S players, you could only add one other player onto that system, because that could only serve 2 streams, one out locally and one to another player across the network. That was the maximum size that it would support. So now you can have, with a compact Terra device, up to 5 different players at the same time streaming around your house.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just to give a comparison of that to my real life experience. So my personal player is a Strato S, right? So I've got the older all-in-one unit. But I did a video not too long ago, doing a review of the C plus the standalone server,
Yep.
and I really enjoyed the performance that you get off of the new hardware. As a potentially a new owner, you won't really have a frame of reference to compare to old things, but having the opportunity to have both at the same time and use them both, I really do appreciate, particularly the download speed. right?
Mhm.
And this is kind of independent of your own connection to the outside world. Obviously, that can limit things, but if you got a big pipe, the new equipment really lets you grab stuff fast. And what I found to be even more true than in the past was, I could sit down like on a Friday evening with the family, and we're gonna have dinner, and it's very easy for me to say, all right, hey, what does everybody want to watch? Right? And if I
Yep.
haven't bought it already, they can say, "I wanna see this thing," right? And maybe they come up with some weird thing from, way back in the day or whatever, and I'll say, "Okay, we can watch it," right? And I hit the download button, I make the purchase, start the download while we're eating, and by the time we're done, we go downstairs, and we watch a movie of what we wanted to see, and we get to see it in the best quality possible. So it's not like you're going down, you stream this thing off of Netflix or whatever, and it's all right. You know,
Yeah.
when we have a dedicated theater that you spend a lot of money and build, that's really awesome. I mean, you can see this stuff, and it doesn't take long at all for it to download. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that for a big movie. It's
Yep.
it's outstanding. So I was really happy to see the upgrade there because it's all about the experience for me, and this combines a really great experience with the best quality possible for that, kind of wonderful Friday night at home with the kids and family kind of thing. It's awesome. I really like it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to achieve for everybody.
All right. So we have just a few more minutes, but there are a couple of more things that I want to touch on before we close out the show. One is a feature that is what I think is amazing, and it just came out not too long ago with a firmware update. So for anybody with, I guess, any of the C players and standalone servers or the Strato S, and maybe even others, and you can tell me, uh, they're able to buy a external DVD player, plug it into the back of their unit, and then use what's called, I think it's disk to digital, right? And then if you have these old discs laying around, old DVDs, and even Blu-rays, right? But not 4Ks.
Correct.
Yeah, you can pop it in. The system will say, "Hey, look here. I see you own this thing," and then it gives you the opportunity to purchase that in 4K highest ultra HD HDR quality, right? So you might have Terminator on DVD from way back in the day. Pop this thing in. It allows you to then buy it at a discounted rate, and the rates are just depend on the movie, right?
Right.
But then have it in the best quality possible. And before it was kind of a nightmare to do that, but now it's super easy.
Yeah. So, just stepping back to the history of that, we talked about Kaleidescape originally was people who had closets full of discs and they had imported them onto a server and and they would watch them off of the server. And so we knew which discs they owned. And so as when we moved to the Strato platform and which was 4K as well, but the download based
Mhm.
format, that to get movies onto a Strato system, you need to purchase them and download them from our store. And so what we wanted to do for the people who had the older systems was to create a bridge to make it a little a little bit easier to take their disk-based collection and get it into a download-based collection. And so with this, some of the studios are very supportive of the disk to digital process, and so there's pretty significant discounts. Other studios less supportive, and so we try and support the customers by providing some level of discount on those. But so that was the genesis of this, was just to help our longest term customers to be able to move to the Strato platform. But what we've since found is now we have new customers who don't have a Premier system but are interested in moving to a Kaleidescape system, but they've got the closet full of discs and they would like to get some value out of those discs. And since there's not a way to import them onto the Strato system, we have we provide the disk to digital discounts to them. And as you said, previously it was a little more painful because you had to have the one device that works on a Strato system called an Alto player that had a
Mhm.
disk slot so that you could catalog, as we call it, the disk to make sure that we know that you own the disk. And so in our recent software version that you talked about recently, was that we added this capability where you can buy a Blu-ray ROM drive, a BD-ROM drive. And so this is a computer-based drive. It's not a Blu-ray player. It's just a computer accessory, and has a couple of basic requirements. It needs to be self-powered, and there's another one, and it has to be
well, you have a list of the ones that are compatible on the website, right? So I would
correct. Yeah,
suggest, I think you have 4 different models, and
yeah. There's
I
3
bought the
now because
cheapest
one of them
one.
changed their software, and so we had to take it off the list because it doesn't work the way that we wanted it to. But basically, there's ones that we recommend that we've tested, but there are plenty of other ones that also will work. But the idea, like you said, plug it in, and then that allows you to put the disc in, and the Strato player will recognize what movie it is, catalog it to your library, and then by seeing it in your library as a disc-owned title, when you go to the movie store and go under the Manage menu and to digital offers, then you'll see any movies that you own on disc that you can purchase from Kaleidescape and what the pricing is. And so depending on what level, what quality you own it at in DVD or HD quality, then and depending on what's available from Kaleidescape, being SD, HD, or 4K, the pricing for the digital version varies. So if you go from an old DVD to an SD download, it's less than $2.
Right.
And then depending on the studio, to go from DVD or Blu-ray to a 4K version could be 10, 15, 20, $25, again, depending on the studio, the movie, the age, the popularity, and a bunch of other factors.
Yeah, one thing I can say is, I've used this, I guess extensively would be the right word, because, I had a whole ton of old DVDs that, that I wanted to have in a format that I could watch at higher quality, right? Because I'm trying to catch my boys up on some of the classics, right?
Sure.
And what this allowed me to do is to take this old disc and then really get that high quality version at sometimes a really good discount and sometimes a okay discount, right? But overall, it's saved a ton of money as compared to just buying the movie new, as a 4K version. So even considering the cost of buying the DVD-ROM or the Blu-ray ROM or whatever, it saves a lot of money. So I'm really happy that you guys added that feature in. It's just a really good example of how the platform continues to evolve and include new features. And this was no cost to anybody. Obviously, it's a revenue source, so you guys are like, please do it, right? But it's not like you said, oh, if you want to unlock this feature, you got to give us $500, right?
Right. No,
Great.
this is, we just wanted to, because we know that many of our customers, both ongoing and new ones, are disc collectors. They, just have these disc libraries, and some people still want to buy the steel box versions just because they want to keep their collection going. But so
Yeah,
that
yeah.
allows, by doing this, but this new version allows these guys to have the BD-ROM drive. They can go buy the steel box version that they're going to put on the shelf anyway, but take that disc and get the discount off the Blu-ray copy of the disc in there, and then watch it on Kaleidescape, where it's much easier to get to, and you don't have to get out of your chair, and you're going to get it still at least the same, if not better quality on the screen.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I like that. This is my newest still box right there. It's House of the Dragon season 1. I guess my head's covering it up, but yeah, I think that's outstanding. All right. I think we have time for one more topic. Now, before we get into it, you guys have released a new brand video that's on your YouTube, and I watched that and I thought it was really good. I'm going to have a link down below. So for everybody that's watching this, if you haven't had a chance to see that brand video yet, click that link and go check that out. It's pretty cool. And then the last
You can also
item,
see it right on if you go to kaleidescape.com, it's front and center
awesome,
on the page. Yeah, you just
even
go right
better.
there and play the video. It's easy.
Even better. But the last topic is there's going to be something new coming from you guys, a new product here in the not too distant future, right? Can we talk about that as something you might put in your hand and use?
But and basically, for anybody who's had a Kaleidescape system for any number of years, we have the white stick remote that basically we delivered so that integrators would be able to make the thing work and get it set up on somebody's network, because so many people use some sort of control system.
Mhm.
whether it's a full-on Crestron whole house system or a very basic system to just control all the things in your theater, to turn your receiver and projector and everything on at the same time. But so unfortunately, those remotes were no longer available. They weren't being manufactured anymore, and so we had to transition. So yeah, so we've created a new remote that's going to be delivered with the Strata systems going forward, starting sometime in June. And it's a simpler remote and is a little bit more dedicated to a Kaleidescape player, where the other one was a little bit more multi-purpose. And this one is for anybody who's used to the various streaming platforms. It'll seem very familiar, and to the extent that the previous controls didn't behave exactly the way that people were now used to with more current remotes, that this one will kind of take that away, and the buttons will do the things that you exactly expect them to. But it's not a huge change. It's just a convenience factor for people who want to have a physical remote to be able to drive their system. For me, I love the mobile app. So
Right.
I have a control system with a stick remote that comes with that. And but as soon as I get the Kaleidescape menu up on the screen, when I want to go and start searching for stuff, I use the mobile app just because it's so much more responsive.
I'm maybe I'm a little more enthusiastic about this, but I think the remote control is gonna be freaking awesome. Yeah. I I know a large number of people out there that are gonna agree. I think there's gonna be a niche, right? There's gonna be the set of people that have Kaleidescape and they have a nice system, but maybe they don't have a 10 or $15,000 automation system layered on top of it.
Yep.
And if this remote can get you turned on and into the Kaleidescape UI and then give you full functionality there, that is going to be the solution that a good chunk of people want, and that will provide that to them, kind of out of the box. So I think it's a really big deal for a good chunk of the customer base. So I'm
Well,
super excited about it. I can't wait to play with one of them. It's going to be super cool.
well, I'll be happy for you to check it out and enjoy it if that's the interface you're looking for.
Yeah, I use this all the time when I sit down. I've got a remote and other things, but today when Kaleidescape's on the screen, I take the remote, I push a button, and everything turns on, and Kaleidescape comes up, and then I go straight to the phone, right? Um, if I could just take that remote and push the button, and then just be straight in there, that would be super cool. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm excited, and I think that's going to be a great product for folks here in the not too distant future.
Cool. Well,
Awesome. Well, we're out of time. Actually, we're over time. So, I want to say thanks, Andre, for coming on and spending time with us. I know your time is valuable. And then for all the viewers, I know your time is valuable too. So thanks for joining. And hopefully this has helped illuminate some of the mysteries of Kaleidescape and shows you why I love the product so much and why I'm so passionate about it. So, Andre, thank you.
Giles, thank you very much for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So everybody out there, if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe, push all the buttons, comment, share, do all those things that YouTubers love. I love them too. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.